Everyone, hope the water break was hydrating. Thank you all for coming back, and I'd like to introduce our next speakers, Josh and Eric from Pantheon, and they'll be speaking next. So thank you.
Okay. Morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Okay, cool. My name is Eric Hamer. I've been at Pantheon for about 6 years. I run our state and local and higher ed part of the business. And today we just kind of want to talk to you about where we play in sort of the government area. And if it's helpful for you guys, great. And if not, hopefully go on with your day, still getting something out of it. So just show of hands, how many folks here are sort of in the federal government space? Okay, quite a few. And then maybe in the state/local. Okay, very cool. And then anything else I should know about? No, okay, cool. So just for federal stuff, not our primary focus at the moment, although we can work through federal government agencies with Google Cloud and Carahsoft, if anybody's done that before. Our focus really is sort of a little bit more right now on this state, local, county, city area. We tend to do a lot of good work there and deliver a lot of value with a lot of people. And has everybody heard of Pantheon before? Cool. Okay, so I don't want to preach to the choir here. So kind of the things we help solve for are website sprawl or containing your website sprawl, secure hosting, centralized site governance, and financial predictability. So I think obviously with a lot going on in state, local, and federal government, that last one's probably a big ticket item right now. So Josh here can kind of help talk us through some of the more specifics of how we can work together or what we do in that area. So.
Thanks, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Many of you I know, but for those of you who don't, I'm Josh, co-founder of Pantheon. This is an area, a room that's very near and dear to my heart. I got started in this business with Drupal trying to take over the government by working on an insurgent presidential primary campaign, and spent the first several years of my career thereafter really focused on the civic technology overlap. So that's a lot of nonprofit work, a lot of government work, a lot of public service type of work. And I think there's incredible alignment between the work that all of you do and the ethos of the Drupal project and the values of open source. So I want to just say thank you all for coming to further your craft and to come together as a community and figure out how we can support one another in what is objectively a pretty difficult macro environment, if you catch my drift. We're here to help where and how we can. I wanted to invite Eric to be a part of this talk because he and his team are really some of the, they are salespeople, but they're actually here to help. If you meet him, you meet anybody on his team, they're empathetic. They want to help you build community. They want to help you figure out what we need to do with your institution, where it is we need to go, who it is we need to talk to, what will convince them to help give you the tools you need to unlock getting the most out of open source. And that's really what Pantheon's all about. We have come up as a practitioner-aligned platform that helps all of you and the agencies and organizations you work for that are wonderful get the most leverage out of open source you can, whether that's working on an individual site with a team that just wants to keep making it better week over week, sprint after sprint, month over month, and keeping current with what's going on, what your constituents need, what's going on the web, or it's working with a whole state to figure out how to deal with the mess and organize things in a more coherent way. This is a big change sometimes, and it requires a lot of people to get on board to make that kind of big change. But you look at what we were able to do with our friends at Lullabot and the state of Iowa. That state saves literally hundreds of millions of dollars a year in technology after standardizing on Drupal. They're at the top of all of the .gov domains in terms of accessibility and compliance, right? The outcomes are very real. If we can figure out the right way to make the case to convince people to get on board, because it's not just the technology, it is the people, it's the processes, it's the platforms. So I'm happy to take any questions if people have them, but I'm also happy to like end the SpawnCon and let you get back to your business. But if there is an opportunity, if you want to help make a change within the world that you're working, and there's a way for us to help, even if you're not sure what it is, let's talk about it. Because if we can learn a little more about what's going on in your world, we can usually find a way to make a compelling case to whomever actually makes that decision, and we can do it together. So we're here for you. We're here to be your partner, to give you the flexibility you need to get the most out of open source, whether that's including tools beyond Drupal. I know that might be heretical to say, but like, we're big organizations. We contain multitudes, and like, we're here for it. And so we really want to help the web thrive. We want to help all of you thrive and enjoy your careers and serve your constituents and be really proud of the work you do. So thank you for your time. Feel free to grab us if you want to chat about anything. And I think I'll probably just let you get back to the real content. So thanks again for the time. Appreciate it. All right. Take over.
All right, up next, we'll have Prompt Source. I think we'll give a few minutes to set up, and then we'll proceed to the next talk.
Let me see. I'm gonna scooch this out. Oh, thank you. I was just gonna move it over. Oh, here. Yeah, then we're gonna have two people sitting.
We're all talking. It's a game show. Offered for a bid.
All right. Is it
It
on?
was showing up earlier.
It showed up earlier. Oh, wait,
It's
let me-
not.
Hello?
Is this okay? I don't gotta get any closer?
I can't.
Should I get any closer now?
You guys ready? All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Lori Nicolanti. I'm the director of the project management office at Prompt Source. Today, we're going to walk through a case study showcasing our work with the city of Rochester. We're going to highlight some of the challenges that they faced, the solutions that we implemented, and the results of our teamwork together. And then at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. So I've already introduced myself. I'm going to hand it off to John so he can introduce himself.
Hi, I'm John Lutz. I'm a senior Drupal developer at Prompt. Been there for about 6 years. I've been using Drupal since beginning of Drupal 6. And I was a technical lead on this project.
And I am Matt Driffel. I'm here on behalf of the City of Rochester. I am our city's digital content manager, overseeing the website and social media. I served as the enterprise counterpart to John in this project. My background is actually journalism and news, but I joined the government about 3 years ago, and I've been loving it ever since, despite the current environments. But yeah, a little bit more about the City of Rochester. For those who don't know, we're a city of about 200,000 people on the southern shores of Lake Ontario in upstate New York. We are in between, say, Toronto and New York City. Big Buffalo Bills country, a lot of natural wonders up there with the Adirondacks and the Finger Lakes, the Catskills, the Thousand Islands. Founded on flour mills through the Genesee River, then became the Flower City because George Eastman started transplanting all these exotic flowers, and we got a lot of parks. It's also a city that's really vibrant in the arts communities with music and dance, murals. Walking around Atlanta yesterday, seeing all the sculptures actually reminded me of home. It was nice. But all that to say, growing up there, now living there, working there, the website we used to have did not represent that flourishing artistic community that I know. And that's why we had to contact some fine folks to help us get a new website that would actually represent the city of the people that I know live and work there. And why now? Well, our website was really old. We were suffering from proprietary software in a company that went out of business. To give you a glimpse into what I was working at when I joined the city, the latest mobile rendering device they gave me was an iPhone 4, and that was in the Lord's year 2022. So that's a little glimpse of what we were up against. But it wasn't just poor tech, it was poor organizational structure. There was no me at the city as far as like a CMS manager goes, or somebody to oversee the content or the workflows or the training or anything else. So the issues of technology limitations and also organizational limitations, we had to do a whole top design rebuild from the bottom up. And I think when you go into our preliminary work, because this is a years-long process, at least for governments, we started with a lot of internal focus groups and surveys. We started with department heads down to people at lower levels of the city organization. We took those surveys and focus groups to different stakeholders and organizations throughout the community. And the work and the goals of all that, discovery work was to consolidate that stakeholder vision. Obviously, what we talked a lot about earlier, prioritizing accessibility, not just meeting those compliance standards, but exceeding them where we can. Another fun fact about Rochester I forgot to mention is we're third highest spoken language in our area is American Sign Language, so screen reading technology is huge, and so is all the other accessibility features we get into. But aside from accessibility, we also wanted to prioritize navigation. We'll get into a little bit of the issues we faced on our old site. And then also we wanted to take this opportunity. You see here the mobile look versus the present look from our old site to our new. We really wanted to use this as an opportunity to develop the brand of the city of Rochester. The website is sort of the backbone of all of our communication tools. All of our social media posts go back to it. All of our newsletters reference it. So to really take this opportunity to not only modernize the tech, but also the style, how it looks and feels, and how people make that subconscious connection between city and website. So that was our preliminary work and goals. Like I said, the brand evolution, this is a pretty massive change we had. And that Flower City logo that we have in the top left corner of the new one is actually, that logo is celebrating its 50-year anniversary this year. It's one of the oldest municipal logos in the country. We're doing a documentary about it this year. So we had a strong brand identity. We just had pretty bad brand distribution. We couldn't really make it look as good as we knew it was. And using this website with new font structures, leaning on photography, we're the city of Eastman Kodak and mainstream film and photography. We have a huge library of great photos, so we started prioritizing that and less of the graphics, but still keeping the simple iconography stuff for accessibility when we need to. But just giving our whole website a rebrand and a relook and a refresh package with all the same tools that our constituents leaned on, but just in a way that works better on mobile, but also looks better on the eyes. And it took a long time.
So we wanted to lean into our relationship and help Rochester modernize the design of their site. We wanted it to work well for both the branding for the traditional print material and also for their online presence. By leveraging that city blue color, they have an amazing photography library and a mix of clean icons. We really wanted to give like a unique, clean, and visual experience that modernized the site, and it would be just something that you would expect to see today. At the start of the project, during our discovery process, we really focused on a human-centered design approach. So to do this, we start with an understanding of who the users are. We discuss the pain points of each user, what their needs are, and then while working with the Rochester team, we started asking all of the why questions. Like, why do you want to do this project? What are the goals we want to accomplish? So we started to identify the target groups. This includes both the internal city employees and the external users. We ended up with a very extensive and long list of all the different users of Rochester's website. We worked together to make sure that we could accommodate each of the users. We did this by identifying user personas. So with the user personas, we identify what the pain points are, what the goals of each user is, what their specific needs for coming to the website were. Then this helped us identify what we felt was working on the current site and then what was not working on the current site that we could improve upon. We made a lot of recommendations. Some of the key ones that we made were to improve the navigation, to improve the design, the content strategy, how they were going to organize everything. We also made a lot of improvements to accessibility and made the site friendly for every user. We did this by leveraging Drupal modules and also by giving a very robust search. So I want to hand it over now to Matt again to go and give us some more details on the challenges that they were facing.
Some of these challenges that we were facing still keep me up at night, even though the new site is launched and running well, but there's some PTSD there from the old site. Poor navigation was at the forefront. A city is inherently complex. There's departments, the municipal breakdowns of, who's doing the water report versus who's doing the property assessment, who can make that information accessible and understandable, and then who can get it out to somebody. It's a lot of moving parts, and the old website wasn't built in a way that made things simple or easy, On the bureaucracy side, we might know internally where things go departmentally, but it never made sense on the front end for the website. And on top of that, our search was completely broken. We had like an old dusty library of news releases for 10 years that were clogging down every search field. Nobody could find what they wanted to find, and it was just, even if the site was good, which it wasn't, people still couldn't get to what they wanted to get to. So we were facing a lot of struggles there with navigation and information architecture. And then also, as we spoke a little bit about the outdated design with the iPhone 4 rendering, and mobile responsiveness was terrible. People would have to be scrolling on tables on their phone left and right. And we know that on a monthly average, 66% of our users are mobile. So what are we doing here? And that's why, like a smart person, I called my friend John.
Yeah, so trying to tackle the navigation side of this challenge. Obviously, the previous design was had a really flat single level navigation at the top, hardly visible. And then what he was saying earlier, it's really common for governments to kind of structure their content on the website as they do their department. So you just put all your department structure in your navigation and expect the users to be able to find the thing they want.
To jump in on that, there's times where two departments work on one thing. Who
Sure.
owns it? Who's taking leadership of it? And again, that was before somebody like me might be able to coordinate something like that. But even if you had a good system in place, government can still be overly complex.
Yeah, so we try to shift that perspective, like with the human-centered design approach, to look through the lens of the constituents and users and see how they would interact with the site. We do that by restructuring the information architecture and fixing the sitemap to give users clear journeys and logical paths throughout the site. And I guess one more thing I want to mention about that is that we came up with a new site architecture. We kind of worked on it together with the team, and then we had kind of questions like, is this going to work? And so we also went a step further and did some tree structure kind of testing on a couple different variations of this to prove that certain ones would work. And so that's what we ended up going with. So also with this approach that we're taking, we're assuming that the users are there to get something. And so, for example, we implemented one of the sections is an I want to. So it just prompts the user with I want to get involved or get informed or apply for things versus going down some department rabbit hole. But you can go through the departments and get where you want to. And then we're also on the homepage kind of showing off like the top identified solutions. So because we know that they are the most visited parts of the website, so users can get to that information as quickly as possible, and they can adjust those important pieces anytime they want to. Then as far as the design, as you heard earlier, we try to modernize the design of the site to elevate the brand. We've really tried to think about some of the pain points and specific constituent needs. Took a mobile-first approach, so users are not doing any like incredibly long vertical scroll, considering there's a high mobile presence City of Rochester. We also wanted the design with mobile first, so it's great user experience regardless of the device you're on. Part of that comes from a component-based design approach that we take, and we go into this project looking at it like a flexible design system with Lego building blocks so that you can quickly build out pages that are going to be responsive on any device. Over to Matt with more challenges.
Yeah, there was no shortage of those for this. We talked a little bit about search already. One of the things that really irked me on our old site was we couldn't properly use synonyms even for search. So like the page on the municipal side might be refuse and recycling. The page in the user's mind might be garbage. If you search for garbage on our website, you wouldn't get pointed to the page you wanted to. I won't spare you all the details of our search difficulties. I think I've covered them enough for this experience, but poor content editing experience was another one. We have a lot of holdover people in web coordinator positions in the city, not necessarily the most technically savvy folks in some positions, but our text editor was bad, the formatting was bad, the styles were bad. It prevented from people to want to get in there and update the pages. It wasn't easy to log in or access the back-end structure of things. And if your editing experience is bad on the back side, how do you think it's gonna look on the front side? I think if you really care about the look and the feel of how your website's gonna operate, I think you should be just as interested in how the text editor looks and operates as it does when it's published. And that was something we really struggled with, which again, I called my friend John for.
So for the search, to create an effective search that's intuitive, accurate, and relevant to your users' needs, it's working not only with the developers on our end, but with the Rochester team, content team, to be able to put together proper data structures and taxonomies, to index the content in a way that helps the end searching capabilities, like boosting certain content types and fields, adding synonyms, having a faceted filters to make sense for the user's needs. And then we also included an autocomplete and did you mean functionalities. And also we can search within PDF documents because they have a load of PDF documents that people want to be able to search within those documents as well.
Too many. But the conversation at PDFs earlier really hit home. Right. I won't go into it.
Yeah. And then on the content editing side, we have Drupal, so we have a really great start there to easy content editing and really consistent approach from content type to content type. And then we gave them content types that we knew that government institutions like them would need, site alerts, events, meetings, news, things like that. We also gave them like reusable content entities, like locations and contacts, so they didn't have to keep re-entering the same contacts or locations like 10 different ways and have them output the same way. We worked on a workflow with them that actually helped support their content editors versus like pushing the content editors away in their own little siloed areas where they do their own thing and then the site looks completely different. Or the content isn't like coordinated. And also with the siloing, what happens a lot of times with governments, and especially with like a proprietary technology like this, that's older possibly, if the technology is not meeting the needs of the content editors, these siloed departments are just gonna go out and find other things, Wix, other things that they can just quickly spin up and start using. And now your brand even works more disparate. So that's partly also what we try to, with our experience, basically with ProMed's over 20 years experience with a lot of government institutions in some of the largest counties in the US, we've created a Kickstarter product that we use internally and external people can use it as well, called Provis, as a starting point for these government entities packed with features that we think we're probably going to use when we come to a government site because they've been requested over and over. So when you're looking for like a new website platform for your government entity, a lot of times people will look at proprietary solutions or SaaS products because they've seen this great demo of all the things that it can do. But after they start using that system after a year, it's possible that they see that it's not very easy to customize this to your exact needs for the government. And so we see that a lot. On the other side of that, we have Drupal. And I'm hoping lots of people in here realize that Drupal's awesome. Like it's a really great framework and it's open source, it's super flexible, and there's no vendor lock-ins. What it isn't out of the box is something you can use right away. At least not right now. Obviously Drupal CMS and everybody's adding things on. So what we have is, what we try to support is this, we just added on a selection of modules and features that we know we'll probably need to get us to like 90% of what we might want. And it has a customized layout builder experience baked in with a lot of common components and building blocks. And we call this like a freedom within the framework. And this gives us a great starting point from where we can spend most of our time working with the client, Matt, to customize the look and feel and the hone in on the specific needs of them.
Yeah, I think this freedom without framework is a good metaphor because, you know, they built the house and I got to decorate it. It's kind of a good way to put it. And what were the results? I mean, we got a nice new website. Everybody knows Drupal. It's scalable, it's flexible, it's accessible. Rave reviews all across the board locally. 34% increase in user engagement, 175 increase in session duration, and almost 230% increase in internal website users. The team I previously managed was about 30 to 40. That's now ballooned to over 130 and counting. There's probably more requests to get in when I get back. People like the site. They can log into the site. They can use the site. And they're taking a certain pride in their work that wasn't even there before. And it's been really, really great. So great that they gave me that little plaque. Final reflections. I put a lot of time, energy, and identity into this project. By all accounts, it was the biggest project in my career. And my final reflections are I'm really proud of it. Not just for the product that we get to offer our constituents and neighbors, or my grandmother who's trying to find out when her garbage is going to get picked up, which she now knows the website she can use for, which is wonderful, but also for the people part of it. Empowering the people who don't feel as technologically inclined in the city, but also just the admiration I have for the folks at their team, you know, professional, creative, patient, and kind, the kind of people that make you excited to do the work. Would I do the project again? Not if I had to, but I'm really, really glad we did. And I think the city of Rochester will be much better for it for at least a generation or two because of it.
Awesome, thank you. We don't have a whole lot of time, but does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
I know that you very shorthandedly said when you ran into some of these problems, you called your friend John. Can you tell us a little more about the procurement process that was involved in
Yeah, sure. It was
trying to make this happen?
Well, the full RFP, you know, New York State laws and all that, we had to, I think we solicited over 40 RFP proposals. We vetted that down, did demos with a few companies. ProMet was actually the first demo we had. And my first instincts were, they're great. Other people on the team, because it wasn't just me, it was a team of like IT, communications, administration. Other people had their reservations because they wanted to see the other demos. And then we had to score it. You know, there's MWB points and everything that goes into RFP processes. Their team ended up scoring the highest after everybody voted on all the RFPs. And then it slowly kind of merged into our discovery work versus their discovery work, and we kind of came up with that consolidated vision as two teams. And then I took a 2-week trip to Portugal because I needed to get away. And that was almost 2 years ago now, and I knew when I came back that it would be all, you know, full steam ahead. And I think this might be the first time I've left Rochester since then. So, yeah, the procurement process was the standard government process, very rigorous, very tested, a lot of minds in it. I was happy the way it turned out, which isn't always the case when that happens. And then as far as calling my friend John goes, that was just me taking certain liberties on Slack channels that maybe weren't the formal project management site software we were supposed to be using.
We're friends now.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we launched, we became friends.
Yeah.
I was probably more of a nuisance than a friend for a while.
All right, I know we are pretty much at time, but we are at booth 403. I want to invite everybody to come on over, say hello. We'd love the chance to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Oh, awesome. Take 'em with it. We got t-shirts.
What is it? Oh.
All right, thank you. Up next, we have Hounder. And they'll be speaking in just a moment.
Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I can still hear you.
A little whispering into the mic. Put it up a little bit. There you go. Yeah, I already know. Dope. Cool. All right. Hey, everybody.
Hey, hello.
Hello, hello. All right. Well, this is a great group. This is good to see everybody. How's everyone doing so far? So far, so good? Yeah? All right. All right. Well,
we're going to be talking about the government web trends going into 2025 and then beyond. So we're going to get right into a handful of pieces of like what we're seeing right now in terms of web trends, and we're going to keep it pretty collaborative as well. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a survey study we did over the course of the past year, and share some of those results with you, get some of your takes as well. Really excited to just have this kind of this brain trust of a conversation together. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Well, just to kind of get right into it, we know you guys have been in it for about an hour or two, so we're going to do a little crowd participation. Are you guys ready?
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 Yes.
Come on.
That was pretty good.
Are you sure? Okay, come on.
We're doing it.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go. Here we
We're
go.
doing this.
Mike gets it.
Hey, everybody. I'm Josh.
Hi, I'm Brian.
Hi, I'm Austin.
And we're from Hounder.
Woohoo.
Oh, wait,
We practiced that all morning,
Yes.
everybody. That was,
I-
woo! Thank you. Let me move this out of the way. So that's weird. There you go. Cool. Welcome to our TED Talk, everybody.
Josh,
We're not done with
Josh,
the
wait,
jokes.
wait.
Yes.
We're at DrupalCon.
Oh, we're at DrupalCon. Welcome to our Drupal Talk, everybody. You guys, all right. These are landing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's good. We had one laugh.
Woo.
That's better than last time.
All right, all right. So welcome to the turning point, everybody. So 2025 does mark a big turning point in terms of where the web is going, especially on the government side. Lots of new technologies have been going on. There's been a lot of catch-up that's been needed over the course of the last few years. And 2025 is that year where we're kind of like really at that berm and that turn. So what does that mean? Right out of the gate, a lot of government and web is using things like AI-driven personalization. So when it comes to that, like especially like the chatbots, anybody using chatbots, like AI chatbots today? Okay. Raise your hands, raise your hands. Okay, we got about like a quarter of the folks here. Okay, so using those chatbots to get people right into like the tax documents they need without having to actually ask anybody, right? A human. Get them directly to specific content on like adopting pets or whatever it is they're trying to find. These assistants are going in and making that a lot easier for folks. And more as the years are going on and people are getting more used to AI, we're seeing it a lot more and people are just kind of almost expecting it in some ways. So this is a major trend that if you're not doing that right now, it's a pretty low barrier of entry to do. So it's something to really think about. Also, too, where we're at with enhanced accessibility standards. I know there was an awesome talk earlier about accessibility, so we're not going to talk about that too much today, but the big thing to really talk about is just that WCAG 2.2 is here and 3.0 compliance is on the way. So there's some major pieces with those enhancements and what the compliance includes, like more compliance around keyboard navigation. So when users are tabbing, most intuitive or more intuitive focus indicators for the folks that are blind impaired, as well as the stronger support of those cognitive disabilities. So like getting all of those pieces in place is something that's becoming more and more important as every passing day with those standards and those compliances being a higher level of standards. But good news is that there's also a lot more tools to help us automate this to make it happen. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. AI-powered accessibility enhancements. You want to leverage AI in as many different ways as you can for accessibility testing to provide real-time improvements. So, a lot of you hopefully are using AI for alt text image generation, as well as like live captioning and transcripts for any type of media you're using. And then also, turning those transcripts and stuff into actual written content is a great use for AI. And then voice-activated navigation for users with mobility improvements. These are all, pretty easy, low barrier to entry enhancements you can do using AI that'll have a massive return on your, on your effort. So that's super helpful.
Yeah, and I guess a good way of saying it is we highlighted here is even though there's a higher level of accessibility for the standards, it's a lower barrier of entry to really get there and be at that forefront with some of these tools. So something to keep in mind. Make sure you definitely use them, and if you're curious too about some of those tools, come up to us and happy to kind of share with some of the ones that we like the best. And then there's the ever-growing rise of UX needs especially with WebGov now, and obviously a lot of it goes right into mobile. We've done so many government sites over the years, and we're seeing depending on the demographic, right?
It's like 30 to 80% of traffic, depending on your demographics. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So it needs to be as important as any desktop site. I know we probably heard that 100 times, but here we are saying it again.
And then multi-lang, right? Like real-time language translations are things that are there and are helpful. Even like Drupal AI and stuff like that has these options if you're not using that, something to think about and use. But when we talk about good user experiences, talking about actually providing it in the language that people speak or the most dominated. How about that for a good personalization experience, right? So something to think about to do, and really, if you're not there, get caught up on that. Even look at your analytics. What is the main web browser language that they have set on their default? Learn about your users and what their needs are, and then you can implement some of these tools that aren't as big of a lift as they used to be. So something to think about there.
And another point with that is design for readability. This is something, it basically means less is more with text, so being really pinpoint accurate with your text and your messaging. So the next slide, exactly, what does it mean? Less text, make it do more, which means you don't want heavy amounts of paragraphs, and you want your text, especially when it comes to call to action, to be data driven. So what are those top 6 things? What are those top 8 things the user's trying to get to? Really make that work hard, and don't just talk internal jargon. Because not everyone knows internal government lingo or department lingo. Just be really clear language with them.
Well, I guess that's another great point is people don't want to just hang out on your website. They're not on a Saturday saying, I want to be on my government, state, local government website.
They want to get
out, right?
Yeah, they're there for a task.
Yeah, they're there. They have a problem. They have an issue. They want to get in and get out, right? Yep. Just like you with your Netflix series. You just want to go straight to it. You don't have to wait on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, right? You just want to watch it when you want to watch it. So something to think about there.
Cool. So this is an example of a site that we are working on right now for the County of Tulare. You could see this is their homepage. This is what you'd see above the fold. There's not a lot of text. There's some intro text, but you see those tiles at the bottom. It's what are those top 6 things that users are coming to, and that's data driven based on page visits. And then on top of that, we implemented a feature that goes globally on every page, on every department, on all of their URLs. At that very top, that dark green bar, it's called the I need to interaction. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So what that looks like when it's open, and it's task driven. And this is dependent on which page you're on. If you're on the sheriff's department, it'll look a little different. It'll be, more like, how do I do a visit at the jail or whatever, things like that. And if you're at like health and human services, these items will be different. But from anywhere on any of their properties, if you type in any keyword, it'll pop up, and it's all data driven. So I need to pay my property taxes. It was one of the #1 things. So that's just right there. It's I need to this, I need to that. It's not department first, it is user first, and this is on every page, and it's been working really well.
Yeah. Does anyone ever feel sometimes you go a little bit too department first? Like it's like, what are you searching for? Well, here's our department listing, and then find what you're looking for, right? Yeah. The worst thing you can do. So we're gonna rapid fire these. So really, when we're talking about these top emerging trends here, personalize, using things like AI chatbots and stuff like that are low barriers of entry. Use these tools to personalize. Okay.
Yeah, upping the accessibility game, right? Using AI is a great tool to ensure you can up your accessibility game without having to spend too much time and human, hours on these things. So make sure you're doing it.
WCAG 3.0 is around the corner.
And then, as much as you can, user first, always. There needs to be concessions made, but the more you are advocating for that, the better your site will be for your users. I know there's top-down stuff sometimes, but always be advocating for this.
All right. So we're going to do a quick little pulse check, everybody. So we did a nationwide survey over the course of the last 5 months, and we got a bunch of anonymous responses from thousands of web government professionals, and I think a few folks in this room, which was really awesome. So we conducted this study over the course of the last 5 months, got a lot of great feedback to really look at what's the insights, what are the main focuses for government web, what are people most interested in, what are you most concerned about going into the year and into next year. So I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit of those results, and then give you an opportunity to get it as well.
Okay, but first, survey time. All right, we've all seen Gladiator 100 times. So we're going to do a quick survey so everyone get your thumbs ready. How effective do you think your site is serving you today? Very effective, kind of in the middle, or it's ineffective? So everyone get those hands up. What are you guys thinking?
Effective
Come on,
mez.
let's
A
see.
lot of
Let's see.
mez, a lot of mez.
A lot of sideways
ups.
thumbs. Actually, a lot of
ups.
ups. That's
Yeah,
good.
That's good.
How many
Some
down
thumbs
thumbs? Just if you have a down thumb, raise your hand. Whoa! Nice. All right, everyone's killing it.
If you
Nice
have
job.
a down thumb, I like that word.
Yeah.
Anyone have a down thumb? Raise it up high. So this is what thousands of people in the industry said when we conducted this survey. So they actually, kind of like a lot of you here, said 47% effective, a lot of neutral.
Yeah,
so it's
it's-
actually
it's
pretty similar
tracking.
to this. Yeah, amazing. So most important aspects of government websites. The majority of the folks said user experience and content quality. Do you agree with that? Is that one of your main focuses as well when it comes to the important aspect? I find that really interesting. And so a lot of that UX stuff we were just talking about and content quality goes right to it. So remember, less content, that does more. Keep things scannable. No one reads on websites anymore. Challenges with the current websites. I find this amazing. Content management and then maintenance and updates. So content management meaning going in and updating content. People updating it, keeping it up to date. Does anyone have issues with that or see issues with that? Yeah, a lot of good chunks of people. What about maintenance and updates? Like, upgrading your Drupal. Yep, upgrading plugins, modules. Yep. Okay, cool. So that's another one. Well, I want to just really quickly mention this one too. So desired future web features. As you can see, split between online services. So different integrations of additional services on their websites, as well as advanced search. So again, back to findability of content, getting people to find what they're looking for quickly and easily, which seems to be a major trend there. Well, lastly, everyone, you all have your phones, right? Everyone get your phone out, hit the phone button, I'm sorry, I keep saying the phone button.
Camera.
The camera.
Also known as camera.
I do technology, I promise. So put it on the camera and then put it at that screen. You're gonna get this ebook that we just shared, like the smallest bits of the results of those past 6 months of collecting all this data from government web professionals. Get that, check it out, download it, share it with your friends. I think it will be a really, really great resource for you and your teams moving forward for the year and into 2026. A lot more trends that we're talking about there, as well as some things that you can do for those concerns you might have. Yeah. So it's all in there. Yes, questions?
What level of government were respondents?
We do. So it was primarily, in terms of level, it was state and local government. So it was not federal, but it was state and local, and it was across a number of just like any bits of departments around state and local. So county, cities, as well as I know county sheriff departments and
Most of the folks here are state and local, so it seems really, really relevant.
Yeah.
Yes. Everyone, very relevant. Yes. But yeah, I think that's
free, by the way.
And it is free. Yeah, just put in your email address and you got it. But that's everything, everybody. I think we got just like 1 minute left. If you have a question for us or anything like that. Yeah, there's a question in the back.
I don't know how you're going to take this question, but if we put in our email to download the ebook, are you going to start sending us emails?
Are we going to send you emails? So
just a few hundred a week.
We're just gonna spam the crud out of you. It's easy though. You just hit unsubscribe, no big. No. There is a monthly newsletter that we do send, and again, it's just more tips and tricks, things that we're finding, like stuff like that. So it's not no marketing materials or anything like that. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Well, hey, you guys have been a lot of fun. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys know you're welcome to participate in the afternoon and talk to other people. Just saying.
Right on.
Possible.
Hey everybody, I'm Tiffany Ferris. I'm the CEO of Palantir.net, and I'm also aware that I stand between you and lunch. So we're going to try and keep this pretty timely. I am here as the CEO of Palantir, as I said, and we are a woman-owned small business that works with all sorts of organizations that work in the public interest. We work at the federal, state level, as well as in higher ed and in healthcare. So today I'm going to talk about the Aging and Disability Resource Center resource database that we did as an extension for the Wisconsin Department of Health Services site that we built. So if you're not familiar with ADRCs, they provide resources typically in person, historically in person, to anybody who might need extra care. So whether it's Meals on Wheels or for someone who's homebound, or you need referrals to any kind of occupational therapy or home-based services, they really help you out. And in the state of Wisconsin, there are 54 ADRCs. There are 11 tribal ADRSs, and they provide over 9,000 resources. However, each one of those individual organizations, they had their, going into the pandemic, they only provided services in person, and they all had their own, there was 18 different systems used to manage those resources. They weren't centralized at all, and you couldn't access them at all online. So these ADRCs serve as a very critical point of contact for those who either themselves are aging or disabled and need help, or their caregivers. But with that kind of fragmented information, as soon as COVID hit, they had no resources to turn to, so they became kind of quickly overwhelmed. So they came to us in late 2022, and we set out to kind of change that. But what we were leveraging is actually the work we originally did to build out the Drupal platform for DHS themselves. So we helped them, starting in 21, modernize their Drupal 7 site, which had grown. Originally, there were like 22 different fragmented sites in Drupal 7 that needed to get modernized into a single platform in Drupal 9. So we implemented a digital asset management system for them. We redesigned it using the US Web Design System, and we rewrote over 2,000 pages of content in plain language at levels that were appropriate to the content they were serving. So whether it was third grade level for those who were needed certain kinds of Medicare and Medicaid services, and then your typical 7th grade level for everything else, we were able to use top tasks to identify exactly what they needed to do. So this DHS platform powers both their intranet and their internet site. And the intranet serves 15,000 internal DHS employees every day. They all use it like that. And there's over 500 content editors just in that area alone, 60 reviewers, and just a handful of admins, none of whom are technical. So we needed to make sure it kind of served them. So that's a project we began in 21, and it launched in 23 ahead of the Drupal 7 end of life. So when it came up, that these ADRCs needed to go online, they were calling it the virtual ADRC project. It was really clear what our goals were. We wanted to make it easy for residents to find help independently, right? So what that meant was that in order to make this information really accessible for all the users, we needed to then build it on the Acquia-hosted DHS Drupal platform that they already had. And they made a conscious decision because of their experience where they had all these fragmented little Drupal sites that they worked so hard to consolidate, they actually didn't allow us to build it on an app server. So this virtual ADRC could be a very easy segmented part of the site. And they said, no, this is public information. We have one site. So we have a live site that needs to then provide this unified search directory. It needs to really service as a self-service, but it has to be built with a consistent UX to the DHS platform so that any innovations that happen for any of these other pieces flow into the main site. Obviously, the Drupal platform is very scalable for that, and it needed to be WCAG 2.2 AA compliant. So here's how we did it. So we wanted to make sure, obviously, like everybody does, you want to start with understanding your users, and we wanted to make sure that they not only had kind of a centralized digital presence, but they really had this digital front door. And when we started the project, residents really were at, if they couldn't make it into a physical ADRC, they had to use the phone. The staff were overwhelmed just being able to respond to those things, and it put such a huge strain on the ADRC staff. So we needed to create a single, intuitive, statewide source of truth. So Palantir uses a very predictable, agile product development lifecycle, and one of the most important insights from our work together with DHS was that we wanted to make sure that it was fostering collaboration. So it wasn't just that we worked with the enterprise digital team, which had responsibility for the platform. The funding came to the ADRCs directly from the federal government, so to BADER, the Bureau of Aging and Disability Services. So they actually controlled the project. We had another division that controlled the platform, and then we had an entirely different change advisory board that had to manage and approve all of our release management. So there are multiple parties involved, and then they layered in about a year into the project, they layered in a CRM. And because that was done by a different pool of money and a different decision-making team, we didn't have any input into that. So we also didn't have any input into the timeline. So it meant that the CRM that we had to integrate with was only going to come online. This is ARPA money, and so as many of you may know, ARPA money had to be spent by this week. So the CRM actually only came online in December of last year, and this was a 3-year project. So we had to continue to build and work really closely with that third-party vendor to make sure that we had everything there. So what we did is we obviously used our iterative process, but it helped to make it very predictable. We were doing research, we were doing UX, we were doing development and testing, deep testing, both UX testing as well as automated testing and code level testing throughout that entire process. So as we're looking to scale this platform, the site is live, the platform is live. The DHS public platform where this information was going to live serves about 10 million visitors every month. And it has 2,000 different content editors. So we couldn't do anything that would jeopardize that site at any point. So we had to make sure that we were coordinating really closely. And as I mentioned on a few slides ago, DHS platform launched in Drupal 9 right as Drupal 10 was coming out. So the first thing out of the gate, if we're looking to expand the platform, is we're going to run a team that's actually going to upgrade the platform. So as part of the ADRC project, we ran one work stream that was just updating the DHS platform to Drupal 10. So that had to be coordinated with the rest of the work packages that were coming from the main operations and maintenance of DHS. So there's a lot of coordination, and if you keep the communication clear, we would run into this kind of quarterly process and making sure that there was a roadmap, understanding that all maps are wrong, but the process of mapping is useful, right? If we're trying to keep that communication going, it really does help. So there was significant investment. And I think the other thing that I wanted to just share is that the analogy I use with DHS is that maintaining a platform that you have is like ocean swimming. It's actually a lot of work to just stay in the same place. And so we had to make sure that they could stay where they were as we were looking to move ahead. One of the things about our kind of very collaborative process is that we use behavior-driven development. So BADER, which was directing the development of the ADRC resource database, had no technical users. So DHS has no technical staff. They do have site builders and site managers who are amazing, but they actually have their own day jobs and they had no allocation to this project. So then you have the resource specialists who are really driving this project, but they don't understand anything about content management. They do understand deeply their content. So when we use this very behavior-driven development process, it allows us to do activities that are very collaborative, we would do example mapping. So we would start and say, okay, what's the story we're trying to make happen? And then what are the rules around it? This is how you can generate requirements for folks who aren't very technical. So if you're interested, I'm happy to talk more about this behavior-driven development, but it kind of follows a pattern that if you're familiar with Agile in terms of writing user stories, very similar to that. It's given blank, when blank, then blank, right? And the nice thing about that is we use that from our requirement gathering all the way through our test coverage. So again, when we started on the platform, it had about 60% automated test coverage. So as we did the Drupal 10 upgrade, we made sure that that coverage went to 100%. And then we made sure that any of the new innovations we added in this behavior-driven development so that we knew what was going to happen. We wanted to make sure that everything we did was obviously validated with research, because we had to advocate back to the EDT team why we were recommending adding things to the style guide, why we wanted to tweak things. So they only had budget in the original upgrade to do your site improve or your wave testing, right? They did a lot of automated accessibility testing. But because of the population ADRC served, we had several rounds of heuristic evaluation and deep, intense user engagement, both internal and external. They had an entire panel of users who needed had some sort of disability who were available to us and that we were able to engage with throughout the project. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned about accessibility that I wanted to pull forward is that not only does your end product need to be accessible, every artifact you create also in the process of creating the project needs to be accessible if you want to include those users. And so I really appreciated when you were talking about onboarding and making sure people knew how to use Word. And if you have to create these PDFs to do user testing scripts, they have to be accessible. So what part of that process is that not only do we do this testing all the way throughout, but it actually had to make a difference. So we wanted to make sure that the feedback got integrated every time. So we use that feedback to drive theming changes in Drupal, to be able to support why we were going to make changes to their main style guide. All the insights from the users were then turned into how we approach search, how we approach the Find My Local. And then it also helped us to really understand the print experience, because again, this population, yes, everything was available online, but what they really cared about was, could I print it? Could the ADRC staff make a PDF to then send to someone else, right? That's their workflow, and we have to meet people where they're at. So I think that the key piece of it is thinking about accessibility beyond the table stakes of compliance. Thinking about accessibility as, I would like this content to literally be accessible to people. If they cannot use this resource, it doesn't matter. So it goes all the way down to certainly the interfaces, but how do we think about the language so that not just your end users, but your site editors who are non-technical can be able to make that inclusive content. So we weave accessibility into every single stage. So the key insights I just wanted to share from the experience was that you want to design for scale from the start. So we didn't have to do any sort of retrofitting to the DHS platform to be able to add an application on, even though it was pretty surprising to us that they didn't want a third Acquia instance to be able to just segment this. They wanted it as part of their main site. Build with users, not for them. Agile can work in government. It worked really, really well. We invested in it up front, made sure that the teams understood what that looked like, and then this idea of accessibility beyond compliance. So with that, if there's 30 seconds for questions. And lunch. Yay. All right. Any questions?
Okay, so we have an hour for lunch. It's set up right outside. If you go out too fast, you'll run into the table. Sometime during lunch, visit the whiteboards or the easels there. Put a little hash mark next to the topics that you're interested in. Pick 5 topics and put a hash mark by it. Whichever ones have the most votes, that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. So have a great lunch. We'll see you in an hour.